I stood in front of the house I once called home, same white shutters, same chipped mailbox, same porch swing that used to creak when I stayed out too late. But today, the deed had my name on it, not theirs, mine. Funny how quiet revenge can feel. 5 years ago, on my 18th birthday, my dad looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're old enough to figure it out now. You're not our problem anymore." Then he turned off the porch light as I walked down the steps with a backpack and nowhere to go. That moment, it never left me. Not when I was sleeping in my car. Not when I was working 2 jobs and skipping meals. And definitely not the day I got a letter from a lawyer with a name I hadn't heard in years, my grandfather's. He left me something. Something they didn't know about. And for once, I didn't scream. I didn't show up angry. I waited. I watched. And when the timing was right, I took everything. Before we start, take a moment. What time is it right now? And where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments. This story, it might feel strangely personal. It was supposed to be a birthday dinner. 18. My milestone, as my mom called it with that overly bright smile she wore for guests but never for me. She made lasagna me favorite, or at least it used to be. My little brother got me a card he scribbled on 5 minutes before dinner. My dad poured himself a whiskey before we even sat down. I should have known something was off. We barely made it through the salad when it started. My dad set down his fork and cleared his throat like he was about to deliver a quarterly report instead of gutting his own daughter. "You're 18 now, an adult, and frankly we've done enough." I blinked. "Enough? We've housed you, fed you, put up with your mood swings, your nonsense. It's time to go figure things out on your own." I looked at my mom. She didn't even meet my eyes. She just cut into her lasagna like this was any other Tuesday night. "But I just started community college," I said, trying to sound calm even though my voice cracked on the last word. "That's your problem now," my dad replied flatly. "This house isn't for freeloaders. You've always been difficult, unmotivated, frankly, a burden." That word, burden, it stuck to my skin like grease. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I looked at the table, the lasagna untouched, the fake birthday card, the faces I once called family, and I stood up. I went upstairs, grabbed my backpack, shoved in what little I had, 2 shirts, a pair of jeans, my journal, and my beat-up laptop. No one followed me. No one said a word. As I walked out, my little brother asked if I'd be back for cake. My mom shushed him. My dad locked the door behind me. It was 9:17 p.m. I sat on the curb outside, holding my backpack like a lifeline, and just stared at the porch light until it turned off. I had no car, no savings, no idea what came next. But as I walked down that street, feet aching, heart hollow, the night swallowing me, I made myself a promise. One day this won't be theirs anymore. The first night, I slept behind the gas station near my high school. I used my backpack as a pillow and wrapped myself in my hoodie like it could protect me from more than the cold. No one called. No one came looking. I crashed on friends' couches for a while until their parents got uncomfortable or started asking questions I couldn't answer. Eventually, I found a job at a diner on 5th Street. Morning shift, the kind where your fingers reek of bleach and syrup all day. I lied about my age and said I had a place to stay. They didn't check. I kept going, found another job cleaning rooms at a motel, took classes at night when I could afford them, ate a lot of 99-cent ramen, smiled when I didn't feel like smiling, nodded when people said things that made me feel small. But I survived. Barely. There were nights I broke down in the bathroom at the diner, fists clenched, whispering to myself in the mirror, "You're not broken, just invisible. For now." And then one day, almost 4 years later, I opened my P.O. box and found a letter that didn't look like a bill or a credit card ad. It was thick. Cream envelope. My name handwritten in black ink. No return address. Inside, a letter on embossed stationery, from a law office I didn't recognize. "To Miss Eliza Moore," it began. "This letter is to inform you that your late grandfather, James Harold Moore, has placed in trust a number of personal and financial assets to be transferred to you upon reaching the age of 25. H is explicit instruction." I read it 3 times. My grandfather, the one my parents barely let me visit, the one who always gave me a butterscotch candy and told me I had fire in my eyes. He'd left me something big, from the way the letter sounded. A trust, land, property, possibly accounts. And he hadn't told them. It felt like a window cracked open in a room I didn't know I'd been suffocating in. I called the law office that afternoon. The woman on the line sounded surprised. We've been trying to reach you for months. You're hard to find. Yeah, that was the point. She explained it all. My grandfather's instructions were clear. Nothing could be accessed until I turned 25. But when I did, everything would be mine. The house, the land, a portion of the family fund my dad always bragged about managing. He had no idea it was never meant for him, and neither did I. Until now. I hung up the phone, hands shaking, then Lafita sound that startled me. It was sharp. Real. They threw me away, I whispered, and they have no idea what's coming. I didn't reach out. Not right away. I could have marched up to their house with the letter, waved it in their faces, told them karma wore lipstick and a legal clause. But that's not how power works. Real power waits. So I watched. Social media was their confession booth. My mom still posted on Facebook like it was 2012 filtered selfies, wine glasses clinking, status updates dripping with fake gratitude. So proud of our boy getting into college. Such a blessing to have one focused child. Some people just need to find their own path, far away from family. Every word aimed at me. Every photo like a knife slid under the ribs. My dad? He bought a boat. A damn boat. They'd always said we were tight on money. That's why I couldn't go on field trips, or get new clothes, or join dance. But now, they were taking vacations, cruises, eating at places where the napkins came folded like origami. And I? I was working 2 jobs and sharing a studio apartment with a girl named Nina who stole my almond milk. But I didn't feel bitter. Not anymore. I felt sharp, focused. Because the more I watched, the more they revealed themselves. They sold off my grandfather's lake cabin. Didn't need it anymore, Dad posted. Bought matching jet skis. They put the family house, the one I grew up on, as collateral on a business loan that tanked 6 months later. They didn't know that property technically belonged to me now. Not yet, but they would. Every move they made with what they thought was theirs, they were signing it over to me, piece by piece. I saved screenshots, took notes, dates, deeds. Then came the day my little brother, who I hadn't seen in 5 years, posted a TikTok touring Dad's empire. That's what he called it. A backyard barbecue with fairy lights, a granite countertop remodel, and him holding up a wine bottle like he earned it. I didn't feel angry. I felt ready. Keep shining, I whispered to my cracked phone screen. You're about to learn what real ownership feels like. I met with the lawyer again a week later. They're burning through everything, I said. I want to initiate the transfer. Quietly. She raised an eyebrow. You sure? Let them keep celebrating, I said. Let them feel untouchable. Then we'll turn on the lights. The notification came through while I was refilling ketchup bottles at the diner. A text from an old classmate of those girls who used to ignore me, unless she needed homework answers. Hey, random question, is your family selling the Moore house? Just saw a Zillow listing. I froze. The Moore house. My childhood home. The one with the squeaky back door and the tree swing that broke during a storm the summer I turned 12. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled up the listing. There it was. Charming 4-bedroom with lake access and renovated kitchen. $680,000. Seller motivated. Seller. Motivated. My parents were trying to cash out on a property that no longer belonged to them. Legally, the house was mine. My grandfather had transferred the deed into a trust under my name. They must have used forged documents or simply didn't know. Either way, this wasn't just disrespect, it was illegal. And it was the final straw. I called my lawyer that night. They're listing the property. Do they have any legal rights to it? Number. Then it's time. We filed the paperwork the next morning. Notice of ownership transfer, challenge of sale, demand for immediate cease and desist. It was cold, clean, official. By Friday, the listing was pulled. By Monday, my parents got served documents dropped right on their precious marble porch by a man in a navy suit. They didn't know who I was anymore. And that was the point. The silence lasted 3 days. Then my mom called. I let it ring. Then she texted. Is this your doing? What is happening? I didn't reply. She followed up with, we need to talk, we're family. The audacity. For years I was disposable. A mistake. A burden. Now, suddenly, I was family again? Number. They weren't calling for reconciliation. They were calling because their empire was crumbling, and they had no idea who lit the fuse. I sat on my twin bed, staring at the text, thinking about all the nights I'd gone to sleep hungry, all the birthdays they forgot, all the ways they made me feel like nothing, and I whispered to the screen, I'm not the same girl you kicked out. I'm the owner now. I never replied. But I wasn't done. The house was just the beginning. They called a meeting. Not just my parents, my aunts, uncles, even distant cousins who hadn't spoken to us in years. The ones who used to pinch my cheeks and call me quiet but clever. The ones who looked the other way when I disappeared. Apparently, chaos makes people curious. They gathered at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. I wasn't invited, of course, but I didn't need to be. Nina's cousin worked at the catering company they hired for the meeting. She live-streamed the whole thing to me. Yes, I watched my family's panic attack from the comfort of my couch, sipping a $3 iced coffee and wearing sweatpants. The house looked smaller on screen. The paint chipped, the tension thick. My dad stood at the head of the table like he was still in control. There's been some confusion about the deed, he began, already sweating. But we've contacted a lawyer. It's probably a clerical error. Someone asked, "Is it true the house isn't in your name anymore?" My mom jumped in. "It's complicated. James me father, he was getting older. He probably made a mistake." Aunt Michelle, the only one who ever spoke to me kindly, frowned. James wasn't stupid. And he loved Eliza more than he ever loved any of us. The room shifted. My name landed like a bomb. There was a pause, a heavy one, like they all just realized I wasn't some ghost. I was a storm forming off the coast. Then came the whisper. "Where is she now? Why hasn't she called? Is she even alive?" My dad snapped. "She left, years ago. She doesn't want anything to do with this family." Funny, because this family seemed suddenly very interested in me. The live stream caught my mom wiping under her eyes, pretending to cry. A performance for an audience she never thought I'd have. Then they moved to problem solving. "We can fight this. Zoo hair. Claim fraud. She's unstable. How would her frick..." But their lawyer, some tired man with a tired ties, hook his head. "You're not going to win. The documentation is airtight, unless she willingly gives it back." Silence. That's when my brother, now in college, hair slicked back, smug as ever, chimed in. "She's just doing this for attention. She'll fold. She always wanted to feel important." I paused the stream right there. Because he was wrong. This wasn't about attention. This was about justice. It was about the years I spent clawing my way through minimum wage while they toasted vacations on my inheritance. And now I was the ghost they couldn't outrun. The chair at the table they left empty for too long now, too afraid to fill. I didn't need to show up. My absence was louder than any speech. They didn't expect me to show up. That was their mistake. It was the following Saturday. My parents had called for another private family discussion, this time at my uncle's house in neutral ground. Bigger kitchen, less bad blood on the walls. I didn't RSVP. I didn't knock. I just opened the front door and stepped inside. Every fork froze midair. The room went still, like someone had paused reality. Chatter turned into gasps. My mother dropped her napkin. My dad's face went pale, then red, then confused. My brother muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." But no one said anything loud enough to matter. I wore all black, not dramatic, just intentional. Clean lines, no jewelry, hair pulled back. The kind of look that says, "I don't need to scream to own the room." I didn't sit. I didn't smile. I walked to the center of the room and dropped a thick manila folder onto the table. "These are the property documents," I said, voice calm, steady. "Deeds, trust details, financial transfers. All signed, notarized, and legal." My dad cleared his throat like he was going to say something. I raised a hand not to stop him, just to warn him. "You had your turn, years of it." He swallowed his words. I looked at my mother. Her lips trembled. Her eyes scanned the room, looking for someone to save her from the truth. No one moved. I turned to the rest of them, faces I once associated with Christmas cookies and forced hugs. "I didn't take anything," I said. "I was given it. Quietly, legally, with trust that I would know when to act." Aunt Michelle nodded slowly. "Your grandfather always said you had backbone." My brother scoffed. "So what? You're just here to humiliate us?" "No," I replied, turning to him. "Humiliation requires effort. This is just me reclaiming what was never yours." The lawyer in the room mine stepped forward and opened the folder. "Unless there are legal objections," he said, addressing the group, "we will begin the formal transfer of control over all more properties tied to the trust, effective immediately." End quote. Silence again. And then, because I'm human, I looked at my parents one last time. They looked small. Not physically, but spiritually. Like their power had deflated, and all that remained were the lies they used to prop themselves up. "You made your choice when I was 18, I said. "You locked the door. I just changed the name on the deed. I picked up the folder, tucked it under my arm, and turned toward the door. My mother whispered something behind me. Maybe it was please. Maybe it was why. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't there to be understood. I was there to be undeniable. I didn't post anything. Not at first. I wasn't looking for attention. I didn't need the world's sympathy. I had my house, my name, my future back. But the truth has a way of leaking, especially when people like my parents are used to controlling the narrative. A week after the confrontation, someone from that family meeting posted a blurry photo of me walking out the front door. The caption read, "She's back, and she owns it all." It got shared, then reshared, then reposted with edits, theories, hashtags. Number, inheritance revenge. Number, she came back for everything. Number, kicked out queen. By the end of the week, someone had stitched together a TikTok using public property records, snippets from my mom's old posts, and a slowed-down version of me walking out of the room like it was a movie trailer. They called her a burden. Now she holds the deed. It went viral. Over 2 million views in 3 days. And then came the messages. People I hadn't heard from in years. People who didn't believe me when I tried to explain what happened. People who suddenly remembered I existed. But the ones that mattered most weren't from my past. They were from strangers. A girl from Indiana who said her parents kicked her out at 17 because she refused to go to church. A boy in Georgia who got disowned for being gay. A woman in her 40s who raised her siblings, only to be erased from her mother's will. You made me feel less alone. You gave me hope. Thank you for not staying silent. I read every message. And somewhere between heartbeats, I realized this wasn't just my story anymore. So I did what I was always told not to. I spoke up. I made a video. 1 minute. No edits. No makeup. Just me and the truth. Hi, I'm Eliza. When I was 18, my parents kicked me out on my birthday. 5 years later, I inherited everything they thought was theirs. Not for revenge, but because justice sometimes whispers before it roars. It exploded. People cried. People cheered. People shared their own stories in the comments like confessions at an altar. I didn't expect it to become a movement. But maybe it needed to. Because somewhere out there, someone's being told they don't belong. That they're too much, too little, a mistake. And maybe, just maybe, hearing this story gives them a reason to hold on one more day. They threw me out. I ended the video. But I came back with the key. The silence came first. After the video went viral, my parents went dark online. No more curated brunch pics. No more family values quotes. Just nothing. Then came the letters. First, a stiff apology typed in Times New Roman like a job application. Then a handwritten one from my mom, pages of emotional blackmail disguised as sentiment. We were under a lot of pressure. We thought we were doing what was best. Can we please just talk? Talk? Where was that energy when I was sleeping in my car, praying the diner paycheck would cover ramen and tampons? Where was it when they turned off the porch light and locked the door behind me? Still, I read it. Because I'm not made of stone. I'm made of scar tissue. And sometimes scar tissue remembers the warmth before the wound. But I didn't write back. Not yet. Then they started showing up. My dad came to the property management office pretending he needed forms. My mom sat across the street from the community center I'd been volunteering at, just sitting, waiting, hoping I'd approach. I didn't. Because the truth is, some bridges don't burn, they disintegrate, slowly, from termites of cruelty and silence. And when they collapse, you don't rebuild them. You plant flowers where the ash settles and move on. But still something in me wanted to see them, broken. Not because I enjoyed it, but because they never let me grieve what they took. I needed to know they finally saw what they did. That came one Sunday morning. I was walking past the old coffee shop I used to clean bathrooms in, and there they were. My mom, thinner than I remembered, wearing sunglasses on a cloudy day. My dad, slumped, quiet in a way he never used to be. They saw me, froze, like ghosts caught in daylight. I nodded once. No smile, no drama, just a nod. My mom stood. "Eliza, please." I held up a hand softly, but firm. No more performances. My dad looked down at his shoes, the same kind he wore when he kicked me out. "You've made your point," he said quietly. I stepped closer, not to comfort them but to make sure they heard me. This was never about making a point. It was about reclaiming my name, my life. You gave me nothing and I turned it into everything. That's not revenge. That's survival. She started to cry. And for the first time, I felt nothing. Not anger, not pride, not even satisfaction. Just release. I walked away. No slow motion, no dramatic music. Just the sound of my own heels on concrete and the weight finally falling off my shoulders. I wasn't coming back. Not to them. Not to who I used to be. I didn't need closure. I had ownership. I didn't sell the house. I thought about it, flipping it for cash, gutting the kitchen, painting over the past with eggshell white. But I didn't. Instead, I opened the doors. To strangers, to stories, to kids who'd been kicked out just like me. I started small, just a few rooms, some mattresses, a fridge always full of cereal and orange juice. Then I filed the paperwork, made it official. The Firelight Foundation. A home for those who've been thrown away before they had the chance to begin. We don't ask questions. We just ask what you need. One girl, Mia, showed up at 2 a.m. with a trash bag full of clothes and tear-streaked cheeks. She'd been kicked out for talking back. She now runs our intake desk with a quiet kind of grace that makes the hallway feel warm. Another boy, Jalen, didn't speak for 2 weeks, just nodded. When he finally talked, he said, "This place feels like I matter." And me. That's when I knew. I didn't inherit just property. I inherited possibility. And I turned it into a haven. My parents never came back, not really. They tried, in little ways. A forwarded article. A donation with no name attached. But I never opened the door again. Some stories don't need reconciliation. They need transformation. I kept the swing in the backyard. I repaired it, tightened the ropes, sanded the wood. Sometimes I sit on it at sunset, watching the orange light wash over the porch, and I think about that night, the door locking behind me, the silence swallowing my birthday. And then I look around. At the laughter coming from the living room. At the kitchen light flickering where someone's learning to make pancakes. At the plant by the stairs that somehow hasn't died. This isn't just my house now. It's a beginning. And sometimes, the best revenge is building the home you always deserved for someone else.